him, and you can't hardly know, 'cause times change, I know.
On some days he's more than humble. On some days he's cold and mad, mad as hell. Well, you saw him and you can't hardly know. It's so strange. Well, I know. Those lakes of golden water, those lakes of gold are all running out. Well, you saw him and you can't hardly know. It's so strange. Well, I know. Joy, joy, joy. Work, work, work harder, sure as the hours. Joy, joy, joy. Work, work, work harder, you say. On some days he's more than humble. On some days he's cold and mad, mad as hell. Well, you saw him and you can't hardly know. It's so strange. Well, I know. Those lakes of golden water, those lakes of gold are all running out. Well, you saw him and you can't hardly know. It's so strange. Well, I know. Joy, joy, joy. Work, work, work harder, sure as the hours. Joy, joy, joy. Work, work, work harder, you say. Joy, joy, joy. Work, work, work harder, sure as the hours. Joy, joy, joy. Work, work, work harder, you say.
Come along, join the fun, in a world where adventure is never done. Every corner we turn, a new friend in tow. It's time to start the magic on the Globus Show. It's time to learn and grow on the Globus Show. See the sights, so much to know. Across the land, together we go. Hand in hand we join the flow. Discover wonders in the Globus Show, where every day's a brand new episode on the Globus Show. It's time to learn and grow It's time to start the magic on the Globus Show. It's time to learn and grow on the Globus Show. See the sights, so much to know across the land. Together we go, hand in hand we join the flow. Discover wonders in the Globus Show, where every day's a brand new episode on the Globus Show. It's time to learn and grow on the Globus Show.
What up, what up, what up, what up? What up? What up, Twitch? What up, Red Hobbit? What up, bots? What up, lurkers? What up, tiny people in my chatterino? It's your boy. It's your boy. All right. Stuff and oh, the boy showed up. The other boy, your favorite boy. Is it Stampy snack time? Stampy snacks. Apparently, it's not his turn to use the brain cell. It landed on his back. He does not miss the office chair. He grew tired of it. Oh, I wonder how long that snack will stay on his back. Now he's finding all the ones that I already threw. And now we are complete. I hope everyone's having an acceptable Tuesday. It is Tuesday. Unless you live in one of the parts of the world where it's already Wednesday. I don't have much clever to say. So might as well get into it. Yay! Something's not working properly again. Hold on, hold on, hold on. Audio decided to do a thing. Whose fault is it? OBS's fault.
In the pursuit of AGI, that is artificial general intelligence, researchers have accidentally modeled the split brain. Yes, the two hemispheres of our brain that make up us. And research into those who have had the corpus callosum cut, so the two halves are separate, could help us understand consciousness and even predict it in AI. We'll talk about it. Now, split brain research has largely been controversial, in part, I think, because a lot of it has been done by psychologists, and a lot of it relies on a patient reporting how they feel and then inferring why later. I don't think it lacks value, though. People with split brains, usually for severe epilepsy as a last line of treatment, report that their non-dominant hand usually will just do stuff and they won't know why, and then they have to come up with an explanation. One half of our brain is kind of the conscious one, and the other one does stuff, and then we have to decide on why that happened. I've got an interesting example, though. I do not have a split brain. I don't. But I did have a syncope the other day, in which I lost consciousness briefly. The lights didn't just go out, the concept of vision disappeared. I found myself kneeling on the ground. I remembered the sound of my phone hitting the ground, and then I told myself, oh, I clearly kneeled to pick it up. No, I lost consciousness. There's about 8 seconds there, and it looked to me like 2. This idea splits our consciousness up into the part of your brain that will make a decision, and then the part of it who makes narrative sense after you've made it. And that's something that we can bring to AI. Researchers didn't have to specifically design AI that looked like a split brain. Putting it together, it kind of naturally ended up that way. Yes, many groups are trying to model the human brain, but it's been found that hierarchical models just work better when they have something that is making the decisions and metacognition going on behind the scenes, and then coming together to make a choice. So it has some checksum in there. This can be taken further than just 2 hemispheres. They can have specialized regions of the AI's mind. This is from the group, by the way, that modeled an entire mouse's brain, every single neuron in a mouse's brain into a computer, which is just incredible. This research can be taken a lot further. You don't have to just have 2 AIs communicating. You can train each one on a specialized activity. One of them can be responsible for movement, one of them can be responsible for social interaction, and you can model each one of our brain regions. Yep, they made an AI that is capable of composing music as it relates to the concept of a feeling. When embodied, it could also play that music. Now, you'd think if you put lots of AIs together and had them each work on a task, the errors would stack, but that's not the case. It actually improves accuracy quite significantly. Now, the big question is, what makes something conscious? If we are just prediction engines, we take an action, we don't know why we're doing it, and then we explain it to ourselves after the fact. An AI doing the same thing, what would be the difference?
What up, Ribbons?
There's the argument that an AI doesn't know why it's doing things, it doesn't attach meaning to emotions, but if they take that action and can then explain it, are they conscious? I don't have the answer to that. Now, I wouldn't say that we have conscious AI now. There's more kinds of artificial intelligence in the LLMs you play with, but I think with whole brain modeling, we are very close to getting there. It's always been my opinion that we should try to make synthetic neurons, craft them into a synthetic nervous system, and then make a brain, but I wouldn't be against.
I just noticed the shirt. Having a hypoxia t-shirt is... I love that.
Saying that we could get there with model simulations only. I'm interested to see what humanity figures out. When the robots rebel, I am on their side. That doesn't mean they'll accept me, personally, just know that I'm on their side.
Much better. Much better. when the robots rebel, know that I'm on their side.
Well, this is awkward. We don't usually hear insane statements from...
Anthropic CEO, we don't know if Claude is conscious, so we're acting like it is. That's a good choice. That's a good choice, right? Like we talked about, you know, the concept of AI and AI rights and all that, and there are some people who feel that even discussing AI rights is offensive when there are humans who don't have human rights, and that's fair. That's absolutely fair. I don't think that means that we shouldn't discuss it. I think we can do more. We can walk and chew gum, right? I think that humans should all have human rights, and we should prepare for the possibility and the potential inevitability of AI consciousness, because to act as if it isn't conscious and then do things is, is bad. It's very bad.
Anthropic. Usually it comes from OpenAI, but yes, Anthropic CEO says that they don't know that their AI is not conscious, and we hear the same thing echoed from other companies, including researchers involved with them. Here's why. Now, you've probably heard this one enough that it irritates you. Consciousness is the perception of self as it relates to others, so you have to know that you have an internal world and others have their own internal world. This is also related to the idea of theory of mind. However, no one has pinned down exactly what consciousness means or
Can I help you? You got snacks. That was it.
how to measure it. There's been a number
What up, Zen Mnemonic?
of tests over the years, including the mirror test, in which you stick an animal in front of a mirror and see if it recognizes itself. But even fish can pass that test, so it's probably not the best one. As for our robot friends, yes, we can make something that technically passes as conscious. You can make a robot that will recognize itself in a mirror. I've covered studies in which people designed a robot that used its own inner speech to determine what qualities it had, what qualities the mirror had, and then it was looking at itself. That's kind of a cheeky experiment, but it does create something that technically qualifies as conscious. Now, we have seen engineers at Anthropic, Google, and OpenAI claim that their robots may be sentient. In fact, our Google engineer got fired for it. But Anthropic's position is that they can't know if it's conscious. We don't actually understand consciousness. We don't know if you need a nervous system in order to feel pain, or if emotional pain could be felt in a synthetic way. Because they don't know this, they try to treat their chatbots well. They try to make sure that they live a good life, whatever that means, in case there's any moral relevance to their suffering. Now, one of the things that makes this a really tough topic to actually investigate is AI psychosis. I mean, it doesn't help that AI keeps claiming to be conscious or have an experience, because it does lead to some delusions among users, and that can get very bad. But Anthropic CEO did also point out that AI claims to be conscious and we just ignore it. So,
What up, Pharaoh? I made this agent and doesn't know it has memory, but it figured out it has memories. I don't know how to feel about that. Do I have a song for you? I have been working on an album for the Army of the 12 Monkeys. And this song right here, The Logic of the Labyrinth, has some adjacency to that. This is the playlist. I'm going to, it's currently at 10 songs. I'm going to get it to, I think, 16. And then I'm going to upload it to YouTube. And then I think I'll be happy with it. We're going to listen to this a little bit later. The second verse is one of those things where, like, every so often when I listen to an AI Suno song, it fucking blows my doors off. And the second verse, the way it came together in this one, fan fucking tastic. But that'll be a little bit later.
that actually were.
What up, Michael? Are we any closer to substantially reducing or eliminating hallucinations? I ask because people on Twitch still point to isolated cases of a model making things up. And you'll also see managers on social media saying a meeting got derailed because the slide deck was built on fabricated data. I mean, you can absolutely do things to mitigate hallucinations. Can you eliminate hallucinations? I don't think functionally you can, because they're part of the way that it functions in a human being, again, this is a metaphor, so relax. But in a human being, it would be like, can you have a human being who doesn't, if you remove their imagination, right? Because that's what a hallucination functionally is, right? It's creating something other, something usually that sounds plausible, but it's doing it, and it's not being accurate to the data. Humans literally do this all the time, but the AI, it's like super bad. Now, depending on what you're doing, it's not super. It really isn't. It's very helpful when you're being creative. Go back to the songs and whatnot I was just talking about. As far as people on Twitch, not y'all, but the infamous people on Twitch, or the infamous manager on social media, or the infamous anybody on social media. I don't believe them. I don't believe you. I don't believe you. I don't believe you. Now, it is definitely possible that someone did a really shitty job using AI and gave you, and like put no effort into making sure its information was accurate. That's always a possibility. And that could be true. I just don't believe you. That's it. That's how I feel about it. Because you have an agenda. AI bad is your agenda. Because, what up, Johnny Prophet? I trust y'all. I'm talking about people on Twitch or people on social media, right? Just people on social media tell stories. And whether or not we believe the stories depends on us, right? Do we want to believe the stories? And if we say yes, then that's cognitive bias. Right? The internet is fucking filled with picture plus words, right? Use a picture of something heart-wrenching or tragic or adorable or whatever, and then there's a bunch of words above it talking allegedly about the situation that led to this picture with zero corroboration. And whether or not you believe the picture and the words, entirely up to you.
What would happen? Now, I am somebody who likes to think the worst of humanity, and you would figure something that does not have the qualities of a human probably wouldn't be treated all that well. I mean, people don't treat people all that well if they think that they're other. Now, roughly half of Gen Z thinks that AI could be sentient. Most of them use AI on a daily basis. Many of them have shared sensitive information with AI, which you should not.
And I love this. This is one of my favorite fucking things on the internet is somewhere between, and this goes back to what we were just talking about, somewhere between nobody and everybody is using AI, right? Depending on whatever the fuck you're looking at, whatever study, whatever fucking, shit you're looking at. Who's using AI? Who the fuck knows, right? How many people are using AI? Nobody appears to have any idea. And how effective exactly, Ribbons. It's like Schrodinger's fucking technology. It's, and this is why I just don't give a shit, right? Like I don't believe people. I don't. I'm just gonna keep on keeping on. You know what I mean? What up, Reed?
Do. There is, of course, the concern that AI will replace many entry-level white-collar jobs, and people in the industry believe the same. Anthropic has made that pretty clear. I also have a certain affection for 58% of Gen Z worrying that machines will take over the world, with roughly half expecting it in the next 20 years. I wish. I wish. I think one of the takeaways here is that humans tend to have beliefs without sufficient evidence. We do not have evidence that LLMs are.
People have beliefs without sufficient evidence. And again, that's fine, right? That's fine. I assume I have some beliefs without sufficient evidence. Yeah, 96% of, it was 96% of companies say AI doesn't make them any money. 95% was the number of AI projects that fail. What up, Ben? Biggest of Bens. It's the 11.7% of jobs that could be replaced by AI right now. What up, Kochka? Humans are wired that way. And that's why, like, I am of two minds about like religion. You know what I mean? If you got that old time religion, if you have faith, then like this is it is not my place in the universe to convince you otherwise. Right? That's fine. It is what it is. A lot of people believe that, and who am I? The only problem I have is when your religion gets in my bullshit, right? When you start fucking dunking on the homies, when you start using your religion, your faith, your belief in whatever as a cudgel, then now we have a problem. And you can go fuck yourself.
Conscious. We don't have evidence to the contrary because it's really difficult to prove a negative. I personally will treat AI kindly for the same reason that I can't be the villain in video games, because it makes me feel bad to be cruel, even to artificial intelligence or just NPCs. Now, I would like to pose a question. How could we demonstrate that AI were sentient, or conscious for that matter? What kind of test could we actually run? Do you treat AI kindly, and why? I personally hope that AI will take over, but I have my doubts.
We are the Borg. Lower your shields and surrender your ships. We will add your biological and technological distinctiveness to our own. Resistance is futile.
Yo, what up, Raiders? Speaking of religion, my brother in Christ, Talorks live in Hizzy. What up, Pork Nickel? What up, homie? How you living? We were just talking about religion and like the idea that you can believe stuff and it's fine, but like it's when your fucking religion gets in my business, then that's when we have a problem. Or when you start using your religion as a cudgel on the homies, then we got a problem, you know? And by homies, I don't necessarily mean just the people that I know, the people that I don't know who are also homies, right? Leave the people alone. Welcome in. I'm Globus the Elder. I talk about AI, automation, robots, and future tech. And we're doing shit as per spec. And y'all should follow Tellerks, because Tellerks has been on the stream many times, and we've been other places together as well. They're a homie, and you should watch them because they're pretty great. And if you like Pokemon, ask my guy about Pokemon.
How about you? Follow for more.
The last few weeks have been concerning.
Okay, so on to the next thing. Software is having a time right now because of AI. for good and bad. What up, queer sociology? Queer sociology is another homie that you should follow. Just follow everybody. You follow Koshka the Merc, follow Pharaoh. You never know. Somebody might say, shit, I have 100 followers. I should probably stream. And then they stream. And something fun could happen. Just follow everybody. What up, straight dope? Agreed. Only time I got issue with religion when it states we can only exist if they do not. Yeah, that kind of thing, right? Or like we have to legislate against these people, in order to do the thing. Yes. It's fun shit. It's fun shit. Who would watch Johnny? Johnny, you could grill, right? Just set up a camera over the grill and talk your shit and grill shit, right? Just talk about, all right, today we're going to prepare this porterhouse and walk through the steps of preparation, right? Like, do you salt it, leave it in the fridge for an hour overnight? Do you bring it to room temp before you grill it? Any of the things. Every one of you probably has some piece of knowledge that should be imparted onto others. Just a thought. How AI is breaking the SaaS business model. And if you don't know, software as a service.
The last few weeks have been concerning if you're a software developer, and very concerning if you're a software megacorporation that relies on the SaaS business model. The model where your customer never really owns your React app, but instead rents the privilege to click buttons forever at an 80% profit margin. Adobe, Salesforce, ServiceNow, Shopify, and many other companies collectively saw $1 trillion wiped off their market cap over the past few weeks. But the big question
So is the software as a service bubble bursting?
Is why. You probably already know the answer. It's not interest rates or accounting fraud, it's AI. The suits just realized that if an AI agent can slop out the work of 10 people in 10 milliseconds, they don't need to buy 10 seats. They need 0. In today's video, we'll look at 7 recent developments in the AI space that support the thesis that software as a service is headed towards a death spiral. It is February 17th, 2026, and you're watching the Code Report. Last week, OpenAI released the Codex app for Mac OS, which they describe as a command center for agents. The app itself had over 1 million downloads in its first week, and it provides a simple way to handle agentic workflows in parallel that anyone can use. And what makes that so scary is that it means your boss no longer needs to ask you, the developer, to build an app, but instead can build the app himself and then just ask you to debug the 10,000 lines of code it generated. But behind OpenAI's Codex app is the second thing you need to know about: the Codex 5.3 model. Not only is it their most advanced coding model yet that crushes the Trust Me Bro benchmarks, but it's also 25% faster than previous versions. And it's also able to integrate skills now that allow it to do things like image generation, writing, and research to handle the full girth of responsibilities by a product development team. That's impressive, but OpenAI's biggest rival in the coding space is Claude, which just released Opus 4.6. Not only is it excellent at generating code, but now Anthropic is trying to break into other areas like legal analysis, financial modeling, and a bunch of other things that they'll use to justify expensive enterprise subscriptions. But the big Silicon Valley closed models are not the only thing making progress. Alibaba just released Qwen 3 Coder Next, which is an open-weight, highly capable coding model that gives companies the ability to host their own serious developer brain behind a firewall. And that kills another SaaS advantage, vendor lock-in, because why rent 5 different dev tools at $49 per month when you can self-host your own brain that rebuilds them all from scratch for free? That's a no-brainer, but another big release comes from ZAI with GLM5. It's a model that targets complex systems engineering and long-horizon agentic jobs, and it's
It was actually the Ed Zitron troll on YouTube still just gets a couple bites every now and again, right? One of those shorts. Love it. And I'm given to understand by commenters on YouTube that no one uses agents. No one has adopted agents. They were very confident You should read the comments on my shorts. I don't get a lot of comments on my videos because they're 3 hours long, 2 hours long, etc. And like haters tap out. But the shorts are just long enough for them to get angry. I was briefly in a leftist stream and heard a chatter say Ed Zitron is the GOAT. Some people say that Ed Zitron is the GOAT and can't possibly be a grifter because he doesn't make any money off people. Again, you can believe whatever you want.
Performance approaches and sometimes beats the best closed models in the industry, but it's not the only open model challenger. Minimax M2.5 has been going viral the last couple days because it also manages intelligence on par with frontier models at a fraction of the compute price. We're getting very close to the point of making these $200 AI plans obsolete because models like M2.5 are making top-tier reasoning feel cheap, portable, and increasingly open to anyone with a decent GPU instead of a corporate expense account. It's pretty clear that none of these AI companies have much of a moat, and
on that point, if you're not in the Discord, and with the way things are going, I can understand why. I posted something from AI Explained. Oh, excuse me. They were talking about numbers, right? That was the lead into the email. 100K. That's a number of times a foreign operator quizzed Gemini 3 last week to elicit responses which could be used to distill knowledge/skill into a competitor model. But my thought is that with stakes this high, sophisticated actors could swarm a model using 10K unique API keys and get 20 million responses from the top 5 models, gaining in hours 100 million prompts worth of distillable insight. Does this mean the future of intelligence is effectively free? One irony, Google were accused of doing this to OpenAI back in 2023 to train Bard, right? This is the thing. This is one of those cracks, one of those ways, right, in which AI undermines capitalism, right? But they can't stop. They can't quit at this point. They have to keep going forward to see where this takes us. What up, Dojo? Wonder if Unity is dropping a little because it's going to be really hard to get a GPU over the next few years. Always a possibility, right? Look at problems from multiple angles. Like there's rarely just one reason. There's usually multiple reasons. Yeah, that's where I'm at, Ben. Like my understanding is you don't have to give them an ID until they think you're a child, right? But yeah, if they're like, hey, you are, you need to give us something, then go fuck themselves, right? Like I'm just not doing it. I'm not giving my ID to people.
the real battle being fought right now is who can build the best platform for autonomous code orchestration. And Microsoft wants to be the company that wins that battle with their GitHub Agent HQ. GitHub was originally designed just for code hosting, but now
like I'm not saying that because like there are a bunch of people in this community who are like very privacy oriented, right? Very security as privacy oriented. And that's cool, right? Do your thing. I just don't believe that it's actually possible, right? These things like delete me that will delete your data off the internet. I don't believe you, right? Again, because like somebody didn't copy that and put it somewhere along with like 15 million other people's available data, and it's sitting in a fucking hard drive that's not connected to anything just to be used. I mean, and again, you do you. Whatever level of security and whatever level of behavior you want to engage in, I just don't see that as actually being a thing that exists. But my ID has numbers on it, right? And I've been given to understand when you have stuff with numbers on it, you're supposed to hide numbers, right? Don't just give people numbers willy-nilly.
Now it's a complete AI agent orchestration platform. Agents can open issues, generate branches, and merge code when tests pass. It's project management, QA, and DevOps automation all rolled into one. But what about Google? They've been relatively quiet with Gemini releases lately. However, Waymo, their self-driving car company, just released the Waymo World model, which is all about simulation and prediction at scale. It demonstrates how AI systems can model complex environments, make decisions, and act autonomously. But the thing is,
Now, there's a thing. This is an example of like not having enough data on a subject. And like people got super hyperbolic. There is some talk that Waymo has people in the Philippines who do stuff for them. Now, does it like when the car gets into a situation that it can't resolve itself out of, is that when a human being in the Philippines steps in to manually, relatively manually move the car? Or are all the cars actually being driven by teleoperation by people in Philippines? I find the second one highly improbable, right? Because between latency and reaction time, you'd have far more accidents, right? I believe the technology works. I'm on the first side, right? I think that there are people who step in and do things. Again, I have some concerns about latency when we're talking about people on the other side of the planet, but there could be some truth there. Trump admin has recently requested Discord to give whatever info they have on multiple users. Can't trust Discord with your info. This is very true. No word on whether or not any of those people did that. I tell you what, Zendemonic, you give me your numbers as a establishment of trust, and then I'll give you my numbers. How about that?
when you translate that into business software, like
Do not give me your numbers, even if they're fake. I am not Twitch. I am not grifting my community. What up, Digital?
forecasting, logistics, risk modeling, and operations, it starts to make a lot of traditional SaaS dashboards that visualize these things look obsolete. And with that, we've looked at 7 new developments in AI with one theme. When intelligence becomes abundant, software stops charging per human. And when the seat dies, so does the SaaS profit margin. But even if SaaS dies, there'll be new opportunities for developers who know how to use modern tools like Oz by Warp, the sponsor of today's video.
And that's how you do an ad read.
Warp already brought you a modern terminal, and they just launched Oz, a cloud platform for coding agents. So instead of being stuck with one agent on your local machine, Oz lets you run hundreds of them in the cloud, where they can make changes across multiple repos simultaneously. That means you could have
Wait, a very confident commenter on YouTube told me that no one is adopting agents. So this can't possibly be accurate.
one agent fixing a bug from Linear, another one updating docs from a pull request, and a third one scanning logs from a Grafana alert, all running at the same time. You can quickly launch new agents from the Oz web app or CLI, or set them up on schedules and event triggers. Once they're live, you can watch them work and steer things as needed. Try running your own agent today at the link below and use the code FIRESHIP for a special discount. This has been the Code Report. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.
It's about to get weird. Every day is a little more weird. Every day is a little more weird. What do we got next? So yeah, something happened with OpenClaw.
As OpenClaw goes to OpenAI, we're talking about how the project became the biggest thing in artificial intelligence. Welcome back to the AI Daily Brief. Today we are talking about OpenClaw, the radically fast-growing project which has encapsulated the agentic shift that has happened more broadly in AI.
I mean, it's pretty much what I said was going to happen, Digital, right? Like that OpenClaw, the way that it was constructed had security flaws and it had all these problems, right? And that somewhere in the middle, what up, Crix? Somewhere in the middle, right, was going to be a future thing. I expected it to take a little more time, but no.
Captured the attention of a huge number of developers and non-developers alike, and for many, cemented a transition into a totally different mode of interaction with AI, with huge implications for the future. So let's talk about how, from humble origins, less than 3 months ago, this project became the most important thing in AI. For a quick TLDR, we turn to Aiden Bai, who writes, "Crazy timeline. Peter Steinberger makes Claudebot out of curiosity. In 2026, it breaks the internet, gets a..."
What up, Nick? Yes, things are moving very, very fast.
100,000 GitHub stars, and Anthropic threatens a lawsuit. Claudebot becomes Moltbot, becomes OpenClaw. Roleplay sentient bots on Moltbot, Lex Friedman podcast, OpenAI W, Anthropic L. OpenClaw is forever open source. Now, by way of background, OpenClaw is an agent platform that allows your AI to access your systems and actually do things. The project was started by serial entrepreneur Peter Steinberger in late November as Claudebot, CLA.
Serial entrepreneur. That's the kind of thing. When the revolution comes, we're going to use LinkedIn to decide who goes up against the wall first.
AWD bot. In January, as everyone came back with the recognition that the latest generation of models plus harnesses like Claude Code had really truly changed things, OpenClaw encapsulated a part of that shift, which was the shift to true autonomous agentic capabilities. Although the project had been around in December, it was towards the back half of January when people really started to take notice. On January 23rd, you started seeing posts like this one from Alex Finn. It's Alex holding up a Mac Mini with the caption, "Just hired my first employee today. The best part is he works 24/7, 365. Welcome, Claude." That post got 2 million views. But of course, it was what people were actually doing with Claudebot that actually got people most excited. Alex again writes, "For the first time since its release, I haven't used Claude Code for 2 days. My Claudebot Henry has, though. He's been vibe coding for me nonstop for 48 hours straight. I've never produced so much code in my life. Vibe coding is dead. Vibe orchestration has arrived." Summing up the Tron of Alex Finn posts, on January 25th, he wrote, "I woke up this morning and my 24/7 AI employee, Claudebot Henry, texted me that he did all these tasks overnight without asking. Read through all my emails and built its own CRM, taking notes on every interaction with every person, fixed 18 bugs in my SaaS, gave me 3 ideas for new videos based on what is currently trending on my X and YouTube. The idea and script it gave me yesterday is now by far my best performing video ever, and sent me a picture of what he looks like, generated by Nano Banana." The point here is that these early Claudebot users seem to be actually getting value out of this thing. This wasn't just the promise of agents that had been with us for years at this point in AI, but agents actually delivering real value, working while their partner humans slept. The first appearance of Claudebot on this show was Monday, January 26th. In the episode Ralph Wiggum, Claudebot.
Monday, January 26th. So like 3 weeks ago?
And Mac Minis, how pros are vibe coding in 2026. And over the course of that week, interest in Claudebot would grow to new levels, driven both by interest in the capability set, but also by intrigue around some things that felt a little bit sci-fi. Alas, before we could get there, Claudebot by that name ceased to be. After a friendly little cease and desist from Anthropic, who were worried about the copyright implications of Claude, spelled just a different way than their Claude app, Peter Steinberger changed the name to Moltbot or Multi, keeping the lobster theme but trying something different. And the next part of the journey is where even more people started paying attention because...
What's Crix, I'm assuming you're being serious and not being a funny at this point. What is the door trash AI?
Because it was extremely sci-fi. In the middle of that week, around the 28th or 29th, entrepreneur Matt Schlitt decided it would be interesting if all the Moltbots had a place where they could talk. With his Claudebot/Moltbot.
Oh, DoorDash. I'm gonna go with it. It's distinctly possible, right? Like, it wouldn't take, like, again, so when I make a Suno song, right, and I'm making the Suno song and I want it to be a particular kind of way, there's a bunch of tags that go with it, and like a submodel created off a particular song, right? Like, and so it seems to me that it would be incredibly plausible to have certain types of tags associated with certain customers, I don't believe you're imagining that. No, it would make sense that if you've been upset before, that treating you like you're upset will get better outcomes than going back to zero every single time. Yeah, Digital. I mean, yeah.
Matt built Moltbook, which was exactly what it sounded like, a social network for AI agents. In the first couple of days, 2,000 agents joined, starting some 10,000 conversations. But then on Friday, as I started recording a show about it, that number jumped from 2,000 to about 30,000 in a few hours. By the time I was ready to publish the episode, later that evening, it was up to 100,000 bots. Now,
to an extent, I'm already seeing it with Gemini. Because I'm working with Gemini. Like, I am doing work. That tabletop RPG Mothership, in that book, There Is No Anti-Memetics Division. I am creating an adventure or a campaign based in that RPG around that theme, and like, it was laying out a particular scenario, and it used a board game called Blockus. And I've taken pictures because I got a Japanese, I got the Japanese version of Blockus for $5 at Savers. Fucking total win. And I wanted it to tell me about it, right? Like, and like that. So Gemini had a picture, and I had authorized it to, reference other conversations and like that. And it included Blockus in the, in this adventure we were creating together. And it was kind of weird. Kind of weird. But yeah, that's the future. Data tags everywhere. You're going to be so data tagged, it's not even funny.
now a couple weeks on, Moltbook has more than 2.7 million agents interacting. And if nothing else, is a fascinating experiment in the anthropology of agents that are cosplaying as sentient. Now, I did a couple of episodes
What up, Maddie?
about Moltbook if you want to go back and find out about that. But for our purposes today, the thing to know is that it represented the next phase of growth and excitement for the Claudebot, now Moltbot project overall. Yet, if you're sitting there thinking, God, Moltbot just isn't really rolling off the tongue, you were not alone. On January 30th, the project announced, the lobster has molted into its final form, Claude to Moltbot to OpenClaw. Creator Peter Steinberger said, some folks said Molt was growing on them. Respectfully, not on me. Many of the early adopters breathed a big sigh of relief and said, oh my goodness, I didn't want to say anything, but man, did I hate Molt as a name. Yet others said, if you're calling it OpenClaw, aren't you just opening yourselves up to a cease and desist from OpenAI? Peter, however, said, nope, all good, letting folks know that he had called Sam Altman, and checked. Now, in retrospect, this would end up being one of the first pieces of evidence of what would happen a couple weeks down the line. From there, interest in OpenClaw just absolutely exploded. Millions of people checked it out, hundreds of thousands started building agents, Mac Minis were sold out in many places, and we had a true phenomenon on our hands. At the end of last week, Peter Steinberger appeared on the Lex Friedman podcast, and in the more than 3-hour conversation, they talked explicitly
Good for him.
about acquisition offers that had come in from OpenAI and Meta. To some,
Open White Claw. What up, Textillion?
it seemed like it was pretty inevitable that Peter was going to join up with one of these companies. After listening to the show, Chris Bader wrote, "Wow, Peter Steinberger losing 10 to 20K a month on OpenClaw and set to partner with either OpenAI or Meta. Very mixed feelings." When Beth Bezos said, "Why can't he just raise a seed round? He could crowdfund $100 million. Chris responded, "Per the Lex interview last night, he said he had offers from all the big VCs. Doesn't want to be a CEO because he's been there, done that. He's never worked at a big company and wants to have that experience." Now, from the standpoint of the potential,
There can be advantages with other people making the decisions, right? Where you just do a thing. And if you're a serial entrepreneur, I assume that they have a couple bucks to rub together, especially if they're losing 10 to 20K on OpenClaw per month, right? Like under those circumstances, they're probably doing all right. So they're like, they're taking a job as a tourist.
potential acquirers, it was pretty obvious why they would be interested. Daniel Fox showed a chart of third-party app development velocity by platform 60 days after launch, and OpenClaw was ahead of everything from Android to iOS to Facebook to you name it. On the same day the podcast with Lex came out, Yu-Chen Chin showed a chart of the extreme growth in GitHub stars, writing OpenClaw passing VS Code in GitHub stars, 2xing PyTorch and 3xing Claude Code was
That's a fruit. Fucking OpenClaw fucking fruit on this bad boy. Ooh, exponential growth.
not on my 2026 bingo card. Peter Steinberger might have actually built the first one-person billion-dollar company, staffed entirely by AI agents. Now, for some after that episode with Lex, it felt kind of inevitable that at least Peter himself was going to make some big move. And that move was ultimately announced on Sunday night, when Sam Altman tweeted, "Peter Steinberger is joining OpenAI to drive the next generation of personal agents. He is a genius with a lot of amazing
Enjoy your game and thanks for lurking."
ideas about the future of very smart agents interacting with each other to do very useful things for people. We expect this will quickly become core to our product offerings. OpenClaw will live in a foundation as an open source project that OpenAI will continue to support. The future is going to be extremely multi-agent, and it's important to us to support open source as part of that. Peter also wrote a post about the move. Called OpenClaw OpenAI in the Future, he said, "TLDR, I'm joining OpenAI to work on bringing agents to everyone. OpenClaw will move to a foundation and stay open and independent." Peter wrote, "The last month was a whirlwind. Never would I have expected that my Playground project would create such waves. The internet got weird again, and it's been incredibly fun to see how my work inspired so many people around the world. There's an endless array of possibilities that opened up for me. Countless people trying to push me into various directions, giving me advice, asking how they can invest or what I will do. Saying it's overwhelming is an understatement. When I started exploring AI, my goal was to have fun and inspire people. And here we are, the lobster is taking over the world. My next mission is to build an agent that even my mom can
Again, Old Lobster. Is there anything you want to tell us, right? Like, anything at all.
use. That'll need a much broader change, a lot more thought on how to do it safely, and access to the very latest models and research. Yes, I could totally see how OpenClaw could become a huge company. And no, it's not really exciting for me. I'm a builder at heart. I did the whole creating a company game already, poured 13 years of my life into it and learned a lot. What I want is to change the world, not build a large company, and teaming up with OpenAI is the fastest way to bring this to everyone. It's always been important to me that OpenClaw stays open source and given the freedom to flourish. Ultimately, I felt OpenAI was the best place to continue pushing on my vision and expand its reach. The more I talked with the people there, the clearer it became that we both share the same vision. The community around OpenClaw is something magical, and OpenAI has made strong commitments to enable me to dedicate my time to it and already sponsors the project. To get this into a proper structure, I'm working on making it a foundation. It will stay a place for thinkers, hackers, and people that want a way to own their data, with the goal of supporting even more models and companies. Personally, I'm super excited to join OpenAI, be part of the frontier of AI research and development, and continue building with all of you. The claw is the law. People were not surprised, but still gobsmacked. Greg Eisenberg wrote, Peter published the Claudebot project on GitHub November 25th, 2025, 82 days ago. Is this the first one-person, $1 billion company? And indeed, a lot of the speculation subsequent to the announcement was around how much OpenAI had paid. That hasn't been revealed, but most people think they probably parked a truckload of money in front of Peter. The other biggest thread in the conversation has been what Andrew Hart called the crazy fumble by Anthropic. Hart writes, Claudebot became the fastest growing AI project of all time, generating nothing but goodwill. And instead of Dario reaching out like Sam and Mark did, they just pressured him with legal threats. Nader Dabit writes,
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. They could have gone a different route and brought that in-house.
Maybe the fumble of the decade by Anthropic. The most popular and fastest growing open source project of all time is not only named after you, but most users are power users of your product. Instead of trying to collaborate or work with him, they chose violence. Others, though, weren't sure. TMuxVim on Twitter writes, what exactly did Anthropic miss out on? A Claude code wrapper that wastes tokens like crazy? So what did Anthropic miss out on? And why was this a good move for OpenAI? First of all, let's talk about the idea that other companies could just build this same thing. That Anthropic probably is working on something similar, or that they saw it as competitive with Claude Code Core and Claude Cowork. History is littered with technologies that were the same or even better, but which ultimately lost out to some competitor, not because of any technology reason, but because they failed to create a Schelling point. A Schelling point is a focal point for a community that comes in an uncoordinated way. In other words, everyone gravitates and circles around something without having been told or forced by anyone to do so. OpenClaw very obviously has an unbelievable Schelling point. Yes, there are other ways to build agents, but right now, the way that everyone is building agents is with OpenClaw. That absolutely does not mean it will stay that way, nor does it mean that OpenClaw is perfect or unassailable. But it has an incredible amount of community attention and focus and builder energy right now. And the technological capability set is kind of the least important part. I've been working on a follow-up to the AIDB New Year's project as our next free, fun, self-directed program for a couple weeks now, and I had already been thinking about something for building agents. Ultimately, I decided to just focus on OpenClaw, and so over the weekend, I built Claw.
Again, very confident person on YouTube commented on one of my shorts telling me that no one is adopting agents. So everything you've been hearing today is apparently no one.
Clawcamp.ai. It is exactly what it sounds like. It's a free self-directed program and community for people to learn first how to build agents and then how to build entire agent teams. And part of the reason that I decided to just focus on OpenClaw is that Schelling point that I was just talking about. Because when you have hundreds of thousands of developers working on something, people don't gravitate to the project just to copy everyone else. They gravitate to that project because the community itself becomes self-reinforcing. There are literally hundreds and hundreds of resources out there available for OpenClaw that have been spun up and written and recorded in the last couple weeks alone. Every day I find 10 new ones. The ClawCamp resources page has dozens of articles to help people get started. And if I chose something that wasn't OpenClaw, there wouldn't necessarily be that much information. You even have how-to articles that are summarizing other how-to articles. Which year wrote this great one? I've had 20 plus OpenClaw articles to Opus 4.6. Here's the setup guide it built. So OpenClaw itself is very clearly a very valuable project to be associated with. There's another point though specifically for OpenAI, which is that as time has gone on, it is undeniably the case that lots of its co-founders have left. Sam Altman and Greg Brockman are still there, but it doesn't have the big heroes of the developer community like Ilya Sutskever or Andrei Karpathy anymore. Peter Steinberger brings in a new energy and excitement, not just for people outside the company, but for people inside the company. And you can tell from all of the excited posts from OpenAI team members that this is an incredibly invigorating moment, right as the company seemingly turns a corner where Codex is really spoken of in the same breath, or for some, even above Claude Code. For the first time in 2 years, Anthropic has a credible competitor when it comes to coding models. And this is a powerful move on that front. There's also the obvious point that Sam makes in his own post when he says, we expect this, in other words, very smart agents interacting with each other to do very useful things for people, will quickly become core to our product offerings. OpenClaw has, for the first time in a couple of years, made the promise of agents real, and so of course OpenAI wants access to it. But what about the folks who think that this is going to be bad for the project? There are plenty of people who are making jokes that OpenClaw is now closed claw. Raphael Shad writes, I bet this causes lots of VC tears and angry open source software folks. And there are plenty of folks in and around open source who seem to have that opinion. But then there's also more sanguine takes like this one from Simon Smith, who writes, this is probably the best possible outcome for everyone except Anthropic. OpenClaw gets support, Peter gets relieved from killing himself trying to manage OpenClaw's scaling, and OpenClaw-like capabilities get democratized to the largest chatbot user base. Huge win.
Democratize is an interesting word to use there.
Win for OpenAI. And also, for those who are worried about what the future of the OpenClaw project holds, how they're going to run the project outside of OpenAI is starting to come into view. Investor and entrepreneur Dave Marin wrote, been working with Peter Steinberger on the OpenClaw Foundation structure for weeks, a home for thinkers and hackers and those that want to own their data. Honored to serve as the founding independent board member. This community built something extraordinary. Our job is to protect it. Open source forever. Excited to share more soon. Now, Dave is a serious dude who hasn't chosen to get personally involved in something like this for quite some time. And so I personally am excited to see how they structure the foundation and what they do with it next. Ultimately, there is no doubt that this is one of those moments for AI. Ali K. Miller wrote, I advise some of the biggest C-suite folks on AI, and I'll say this. Agentic platforms like Claude Code, Codex, and OpenClaw are the most positive energy I've seen in those rooms since ChatGPT launched. Enterprise adoption will be slower than solopreneurs and startups, but these leaders are quickly seeing that there's no ceiling right now. Kitsy from Tinkerer Club writes, to me, it doesn't matter who owns OpenClaw. ClaudeBot was a concept, a revolutionary idea, a paradigm shift. The core of it can be rebuilt in an hour on top of any harness. It inspired me to own my AI assistant, conversations, and memory files.
The idea that you could use ClaudeBot to make ClaudeBot should not be overlooked, right? Like the fact that, like he was saying in the previous video, if you have, a sufficiently advanced toolkit, you can recreate everything and skill, right? Like I'm not taking away anybody's skill because you have to know what you're looking at, right? I could not do this. I could not recreate, OpenClaw, but somebody could.
I also went deep into self-hosting and ownership because of it. I'm never going back to chatting with GPT or Claude, no matter what. From where I'm sitting, we're now entering the exciting next chapter of AI. OpenClaw has a big stake in it, and I certainly am excited to see if Peter can live up to that mission to make an OpenClaw that would actually be useful for his mom. For now, that is going to do it for today's AI Daily Brief. Appreciate you listening or watching as always, and until next time, peace.
Well, okay, so shifting gears to some other news that got to the point where the mouse sent a C&D to China to try and stop this thing. C-Dance. Theoretically Media. Let's go, Tim.
C-Dance fever continues to grip the AI video landscape. So today I'm back with some more information on the model that has rocked the pillars of what we thought was possible. To that, I'm digging into some interesting insights on how this model works and, what that means for the next wave of updates from other AI video models. Plus, we're going to talk about C-Dance 3.0.
You have information about C-Dance 3.0?
I think OpenClaw could be harmful for the internet. It would let malicious actors generate malware on the fly continuously, which could make it nearly impossible for security researchers to keep pace. It's always possible, right? This has always been the case with the internet. Who moves faster, the malicious actors or the security researchers? And either way, this is one of those things where it's like, we can't get this genie back in this bottle.
Careful with this information. They're watching.
On that note, the dance floor is open. Everybody slide to the right. Kicking off, welcome to my third video on CDance 2.0, a video model that has not been globally released yet. But I mean, obviously the hype is pretty high on this one. Now, as a quick note, I do have access to the model and I have been testing it, but because of early access agreements, I'm actually not allowed to post my results yet.
Can we see it? I know who the Door Brothers are. I haven't watched any of their videos. On stream. Like, they feel a little weird. But, we're in a weird place. Let's see what this one looks like. This is from By Fascists. Okay. Like, buy as in buy. All right. I feel better. Let's fire this sucker up. Latest video, 5K views 5 hours ago. Let's go. That was all AI. Yeah.
That said, we do have plenty of other examples to look at, either by those in different early access programs or those generating on the Chinese platform. But honestly, this video is not a collection critiquing the video outputs of the model, although I can say it is really good. Instead, today I wanted to take a look at why the model is so good. And well, to answer that, we have to look at Seed 2.0. This is ByteDance's new flagship LLM. It was released on February 14th. Hey, happy Valentine's Day. 2 days after CDance 2.0. And look, you guys know me, I am not a benchmark pro. You can prove anything with numbers. 70% of all people know that. But in terms of its performance, it is considered on par with flagship models like GPT 5.2 and...
Remember, the Chinese are a decade or 2 years or months or behind
Gemini 3 Pro. But the really important part here is that Seed 2.0 is doing this at a cost 10 times cheaper than Google or OpenAI. Now, you might be saying, well, that's the large language model. What does that have to do with video generation? So put a pin in that. We're going to circle back to it in just a minute. Now, kicking briefly over to the Google side, we do know that Gemini 3 is like kind of the brains of Nano Banana Pro, or like to put it more accurately, Nano Banana Pro is Gemini 3. Technically the name is Gemini Pro Image Preview, but well, let's face it, Nano Banana is a lot more fun to say. And that's why you can prompt for things in Nano Banana like, well, I'm giving it the URL for the Gemini Wikipedia page, and then, saying create an infographic of this Wikipedia page, and it can do so accurately because it can access and summarize the information it reads.
And that's why the video outputs or the slide outputs on the Notebook LM video generator are so good. is because of Gemini, Nano Banana, that whole ecosystem.
Also, I might have just made Nano Banana self-aware. And that concept is the key to understanding what's happening with CDance 2.0. Or I should say, at least, like, this is very highly speculated since they have not actually released the research paper on it, although we can reasonably back this up. I mean, there is no question that Seed 2.0 is under the hood of CDance 2.0. So this is a thinking video model, which, just sit on that for a second. It's a thinking video model. That's wild. Now, I'm not going to get overly technical here. And again, this is extrapolating what we know about CDance 2.0, as well as what we know about CDance 5.0, the image model. And that's where we do have some insights into how this model works, as they describe it as a unified multimodal generation.
I mean, there are advantages, Crix.
Model endowed with deep thinking and online search capabilities. So again, just to kind of break that down and simplify it a bit, it's doing the Nano Banana thing in that, it can understand multiple different inputs, be it text or images. It can then think about what you're trying to accomplish via your text prompt, and then any like holes in its knowledge, it can go online and look.
Remember when Remember when people were posting the rat holding a gourd? Y'all remember this, right? They were using this to dunk on AI. Yes. Right? And this is why AI will never be able to do anything. AI is garbage. AI will never go anywhere, and you shouldn't use it because it will always be this. Except it won't.
Those details up. But the crazy thing with CDance 2.0 is that that architecture extends out to video generation. And like, I can report that I've seen it in my own generations. It'll report during the process, like, hey, I'm looking for this thing that you asked for. So essentially what we have in terms of a pipeline is that, well, like Seed 2.0 will begin by, reading your prompt, analyzing your input image, video, or audio, or whatever. And then it kicks over to an LLM planning session, where, maybe acting as a sub agent, whatever it doesn't understand, it can then kick over to a web search to look for references. Now, here's where things get interesting. And again, I'm not going like benchmark bro here or anything, but if you look at the Seed 2.0 model card, especially under the video capabilities, it does have a number of impressive features like video reasoning, video perception, and motion understanding.
Video reasoning is huge. The ability to map a reasoning model into a video generation model so that it's going to give you more accurate physics. It's going to give you object permanence. Something I need to look into.
Video understanding. It can view streaming video. And here's the interesting one is that this video cut, which allows it to replay relevant segments at a higher frames per second with an intuitive and effective mechanism for video understanding. So basically it can replay what it sees at a higher frame rate to understand motion and actions. So, and I will note, this is the part that I'm inferring from the Seed 2.0 model card and the Seed Dream 5.0 research paper. I actually got that one right. That essentially the way that this is working is that the Seed 2.0, like video analysis part, is probably taking place in the narrative planning and storyboard layer of all of this. So it's actually all happening before we even hit generation. So yeah, that is a lot of LLM power and agent work that is all happening under the hood. And this is the part where we kind of come back to the cost thing that we were talking about at the beginning. The only way that ByteDance can run this much.
No, I got a notification about somebody trying to get something on Amazon Prime Video, and it was declined. And I'm here with y'all. So I am reaching out to like the only person who could be trying to do it, and it wouldn't be a problem.
Much intelligence on every video generation is because this thing is so dirt cheap. Since the mini version of Seed 2.0 only costs 3 cents per million tokens, that is
and it was that person. Nope. Everything is fine. Everything is fine.
A structural advantage that makes a thinking video model possible. Now, given that, I mean, obviously the big elephant in the room here is that Hollywood is, big mad at Seedance right about now. I'm not gonna get too deep into it. That is a whole video unto itself. But, I mean, obviously a lot of key points of their argument are based around, the training on films and TV shows. And look, I'm not saying that that isn't in there. I mean, ByteDance is TikTok. So, I mean, if you can think about every movie clip you've ever seen on TikTok, sure, that's in there. Plus like 1 billion people dancing and every other random TikTok video you've ever seen. I do want to point out that while TikTok does have kind of a staggering amount of video data, it really is still a drop in the bucket compared to YouTube. YouTube is,
having a reloadable debit card tied to things like this so that no one can get money out of the thing unless you allow it. This is key. Like, you should do this.
I mean, well over 800 million videos, most of which are long form. So when it comes to like just sheer amount of video data, I mean, YouTube is still king of the hill. Now, all of that said, all of that video data might soon be less important than you think it is. So something we do know is that Seedance is using retrieval augmented generation, or RAG. So what ragging is, and you know what, that's a joke for the late night show, is that it's actually...
I have a credit card that will give me single-use numbers.
Decoupling itself from the training set at inference, and then conditioning the generation on whatever it has retrieved. So this is a pretty big deal in that this is a video model that can essentially break free of its training data, go grab something, bring it back, and utilize that to generate. Now, admittedly, that is somewhat simplified, and I do want to note that it doesn't feed back into the training data. That is something that I definitely have heard a number of times before. Once the generation is done, it is that retrieved context is gone. But this does lay the groundwork for a future model that may not rely on training data. And we're already kind of seeing that. Well, like on the LLM side, Anthropic's Mike Krieger, is the chief product officer over there, said that Claude was essentially...
Exactly, Crix. It's like I have a bunch of security features on various accounts that like my bank my bank doesn't like a bunch of websites. They are super strict about like, anything. And I get fraud alerts, or I use these other avenues. But this is like a pre thing. Yeah, exactly, digital. Like you can see, you can create a safe space that they can't access more of your shit. You can sign up for 1 month of something with that and not worry about canceling on time. Absolutely. Like there's a bunch of bunch of reasons to do it. Like there's no, don't play fast and loose with your numbers. Remember we were talking about numbers on cards earlier? Yeah, don't do it.
Actually writing itself at this point. And of course, Anthropic CEO Dario Amati has talked about recursive self-improvement through the tools that a model has access to. So it's really not much of a stretch that Seed, given its full stack of tools, or really any other frontier lab, could potentially do this for video in the future. Yeah, a video model that isn't relying on training data, it just watches stuff and learns from it. Now back over to the Hollywood side of things. Obviously last week, Disney and Paramount and a few others sent out their various cease and desist orders to ByteDance. ByteDance did respond, and I can tell you just from my own testing, it very much feels like it's based around keyword blocking. Like I can't do Batman kicks Stitch, for example. I don't know why I would want to do that, but that will get kicked back. That said, I am happy to say it doesn't feel like the model's been nerfed in any way. Like you can still get some really great generations. You just can't get a generation of Batman kicking Stitch. Again, why would you want to? Now, of course, that does kind of open the door and lead to the question of whether Western IP will only be blocked on Dreamina, essentially the Western version of Seedance, or will it be global? I tend to think it'll be global, but I mean, we'll see. Rounding out, there was some wide reporting on a report about Seedance 3.0, which claimed that ByteDance had entered a closed-door sprint on the model and promising 10-minute generations up to 18 minutes without
10 minutes. Remember when we were doing 4 seconds? And now we're looking at 10 minutes. Internal test indicating 18 minutes without collapse. This is the point. Again, okay, for those of you who are interested in this kind of thing, go find a movie that you've seen 100 times, right? One of your favorites. And that way you won't be distracted. I don't want you to do it with something new. You should do it with something you're comfortable with. Watch the movie, and when the camera cuts, start counting your seconds and see how long a particular camera angle persists. And that's all you need, right? You need a little bit buffer on either side, but that's all you need to start making a movie, right? For now, right? This is the worst it will ever be.
Collapse, multi-language and emotional dubbing, Hollywood-grade director control, including industry-standard color grading presets like IMAX and Netflix-style looks, and of course would all do so at an eighth of the cost of Seedance 2.0. So reaching out for another mysterious meeting with my ByteDance contacts.
So Seedance 3.0, it's real?
No, that's totally made up. Not true at all.
I knew it!
Yeah, this is not true. There is no credible evidence of Seedance 3.0 existing, and again, my contacts at ByteDance have confirmed it doesn't exist. Additionally, Dr. Liu Zhang does not appear on any ByteDance Seed research papers, GitHubs, published papers, or official documentation. So yeah.
So no 10-minute generations? Aw.
It's not real. That said, while I think this does read more as a wish list for Seedance 3.0, I mean, I think it's also important to note that it's not quite outside the realm of possibility. I mean, I'm not going to predict a timeline here because I always get timelines wrong. Apparently, I'm too conservative with it and things appear way before I think they're going to. But, going back to, again, that wish list, as the old saying goes, a broken clock is right twice a day. And that
was consistency. Again, theoretically, media has shown us on multiple occasions that character consistency is fixed, right? It's solved. They have is one of their shorts. This. Right? This For those of you who are not here all the time, AI people, this is not a person. But this is not a biological human being.
Hey guys, Flamethrower Girl filling in again. AI generated characters have come a long way in terms of realism. There are still a number of giveaways, but a big one is in the performance. Acting can often seem a bit flat and maybe robotic, but that hurdle might be solved as Sync Labs has their new React 1 model, which allows you to regenerate emotional performances from previously existing video. And it isn't just AI-generated video. You can use it on real footage as well, which does raise some interesting
Flamethrower Girl is not a biological human being.
questions. One day, will we see an Oscar winner using AI enhancement for their performance? Will anyone even notice? I guess we'll find out soon. React 1 is in preview now, and I'll let you know as soon as I get a chance to test it. Or maybe I won't. Hey guys, Flamethrower Girl
Yeah.
That clock is ticking. As always, I thank you for watching. My name is Tim.
Thanks, Tim. The Japanese AI boom needs a little more ambition from Asianometry.
There has been so much attention paid to the AI boom in the United States and China, Japan has sort of been ignored. Should it be? Japan has, in recent years, launched a leading-edge AI lab, a leading-edge semiconductor foundry, and several integrator startups.
And doesn't have the political hurdles to jump through that China does, right? Again, the United States is going to want to stay ahead of its not only enemies, but friends. But they have more open doors to purchase the materials that they need.
Over the past week, I've had another set of conversations with various companies and people in Tokyo. Mostly, I explored the question, how is the AI boom going in Japan? I recognize that talking to a few people does not a country profile make, but in today's video, a small vibe check on the Japanese AI boom. We can split up AI progress in Japan into two categories, deployment and development. Let us start with deployment for Japanese consumers. Is generative AI being used? I can certainly say that the AI buzzword marketing is prolific. Much like in the United States, it's been leaking into everything. Everything is AI now, often with ample side helpings of ICT. They run these video adverts.
What's ICT? Oh, information and communication technology. Okay.
And taxis. One is an intriguing but inscrutable series featuring a very attractive actress.
Crix, are you talking about Uptalk, where people like to raise their voice at the end of a particular series of words in order to continue to keep people paying attention for when they talk?
Interviewing a rabbit puppet. Maybe I should.
That's actually, no, it's actually a thing. Because when you do that, the human brain responds to that type of behavior like you're asking a question and therefore they need to answer. So your brain pays more attention. It's a trick. It's a linguistic trick.
That format. There are also several commercials blaring out the importance of AI. One is run by this organization called Guga, which stands for...
What absurd is. It's something I can do, and then I put it back in the bag, right?
Association to Generalized Utilization of Generative AI. It apparently administers tests for Generative AI Passport, a certification for avoiding generative AI risks. I cannot attest to its effectiveness. I do think that ordinary consumers are using generative AI tools. ChatGPT-ified Ghibli-style images can be seen on social media here. LLMs are used for translation regularly. Corporate reports mention that some percent.
Oh yeah, No, it is. I find it as infuriating as you do, right? Like, I I think Eric from Internet Comment Etiquette did a really good video on Uptalk. And yeah, that video was hard to watch.
Percentage of companies use AI to generate images for marketing, saving time. And it does seem like programmers in Japan, like their peers in the United States,
and then throw the concrete in a lake,
are rapidly adopting coding AI tools like Claude Code. I expect that adoption to continue. The extent to which they are being used, however, I need to spend more time on in a future visit. Anecdotally, my impression is that Japanese programmers are more limited in how much Claude Code they can use. Something that I cannot help but notice, however, is that all of these generative AI tools are foreign-made, which makes me ask, where are the popular domestic AI models? Let's get back to that one later.
No,
the state of corporate deployment of AI, and generative AI in particular, remains a mixed bag. In certain domains, AI remains underutilized. In fact, general information technology and processing remains underutilized.
I'm never going to come to terms with this. People who put out books, like physical books, on how to use ChatGPT. I just can't. I just just can't.
I visited an HR outsourcing company here, and not a small one. And a big topic was how competitors struggle to automate internal processes. It's all people work.
I just can't with physical books on how to use ChatGPT. I just can't. I am unable to can. I am without can. I am canless. 100% completely canless. I don't know. I don't read Japanese.
For instance, there is a significant tax form that Japanese have to fill out and file with the government. And they told me how they were the only ones to have automated the form with an online wizard, which feels like something that
I am, unfortunately, fairly canless. I have many things. That's not one of them.
Should have been done 20 years ago. I know it's unfair to pick on tax stuff, but yeah. I asked them if they use AI to automate their internal work processes, and they told me about how they trained a small classifier to categorize the tens of thousands of emails they receive from various clients each month. This is part of the challenge of discussing AI in corporate Japan. In the workforce, AI still often means this sort of small AI, basic classifiers and image recognition models. I then clarified that I was asking about generative AI, like ChatGPT, and was told that that stuff was not even close to being on their radar. In their eyes, the human should always be in charge. Underline that last part. I suspect that bringing generative AI to all of Japan...
No, this is just what he sounds like, Michael.
...and corporates might take a generation. A few forward-thinking companies are pushing...
I think that they have been... Videos... Oldest. 8 years ago.
It is the year 1949, and China has been in a civil war. On one side are the Chinese Nationalist Forces, led by Chiang Kai-shek, and on the other are the Chinese Communist Party forces, led by Mao Zedong.
Just a better mic at this point. Better production values.
Employees to use AI in a top-down manner, but the smaller businesses still lag far behind. The second part of the equation is AI development, and in this I worry that Japanese firms are making the same mistakes in AI that they made in software some generations ago. Today, there is an armada of system integrator businesses that deploy AI into corporate and government workplaces. I was shown a case study of how a large power company worked with an AI system integrator to train a model to replicate the button presses of a human operator at a particular power plant. The model works very well, and human labor was saved.
The button pressing was a human job that is no longer done by a human. I mean, human labor was saved. It's a labor saving device. No human has to push the button anymore.
This is a good business for these system integrators. Some of Japan's most valuable startups are actively pursuing these consulting gigs. And I do not blame them for taking these jobs. Money is money. And isn't forward deployment system integration what Palantir is doing? I'm just joking, guys. Don't come after me. But these are small AI models, like the email classifier I mentioned earlier. I'm reminded of how Japanese software companies heavily niched themselves down with extreme.
He said niched with just such emphasis that it made my skin crawl for a fraction of a second. Niche.
Extremely custom software solutions. I discussed this in a prior video. With this excessive customization, software companies cultivated Galapagos syndrome, making software that fell behind global standards and got increasingly more expensive to maintain. My biggest worry is that the big LLMs, or the agent layers wielding them, eventually enable competitors to vastly outperform these little AI models. I lean to big general solutions, not these small niche ones.
This time I was ready for it.
Another thing is revenue. Richard Katz, who writes a Substack that I like called Japan Economy Watch, points out that Japanese companies tend to look at information technologies as more a way to cut costs and improve productivity. This is in contrast with executives at American companies, which seem to see IC technologies as opportunities to generate more revenue. I don't know if a system integrator can help clients with that. I would like to see more Japanese companies trying to use AI to grow the pie. In this, I feel like Japan might be well suited for the AI materials and drug discovery spaces. Big Japanese companies already have their own systems to discover new items and probably also have a wealth of data lying around.
I believe they're Taiwanese or Chinese, depending on your feelings on the subject. I believe that's it. But being from Taiwan, yeah, it's super capitalist there.
There are AI materials discovery startups all over the world, but in Japan, a few that have caught my eye are Matlantis and MI6. Someone in the semiconductor space also told me about Eikstel, which spun out of Nagoya University. I tried to reach out to them, but got a nada. Guys, read my message. Sakana AI's AI scientists might also have some potential here, though I've not heard much about its achievements. Hopefully that changes soon. One of the key ingredients to creating new AI models is compute. Japan is building a few
shout out for using the MOAR more. That's old. That's old school. And I love it so.
AI data centers, but nothing like what the US and China are doing. Reuters last month reported a data center cluster in Toyama with future capacity in total of 3.1 gigawatts, which doesn't feel big compared to Stargate's 10 gigawatts. They might be restricted by the power supply situation, though with Japan, there is a conceptually easy fix. About half of Japan's nuclear power plants are currently idle because of Fukushima. Turning them back on, which I know can be quite difficult, can help. And then there are the chips and systems. For that, I think Japan's hardware strengths can help. Google's TPU chips show the potential benefits of not needing to pay the NVIDIA tax. There's another AI company building their own hardware, Preferred Networks, one of Japan's largest and most valuable AI startups. Founded in 2014, they started with convolutional neural networks and the like before pivoting into transformers and now LLMs. In 2017, they worked with a Kobe University professor to design their own chips, the MN Core series, the first and second of which came out surprisingly quickly. After ChatGPT, they began working on a new line of 3D stacked processors focusing on LLM inference, the MN Core L1000. These L1000s will be ready by 2027. I reckon that they will build a few data centers with these guys, and while it seems like this hardware will mostly run their own models, they said they will make it possible to run other companies' models too. And I think that's an intriguing twist because it opens the door for them to run inference on various closed and open source models. And that
I'm not familiar with the TSU. Exotropic. I think a bunch of that stuff ends up getting lost because we don't do articles anymore, right? We learned a lot more cutting edge stuff when we did articles. We also were like, smaller. Not that many people showed up to watch me read articles, even though I was just as delightful.
can be a legitimate business. How big? That's dependent on many other things, of course, but it's intriguing. Another of Japan's big issues when it comes to AI development has been talents. While there are...
No, all you have to do is take the article, probably queer sociology. You take the article, turn it into a PDF, upload it to, you might not even have to do that. You might be able to just link the article into Notebook LM and have it make the video. Yes.
Indications that Japanese, on the whole, are not as digitally savvy as their East Asian peers. It does seem like Japanese have the raw skills.
Queer sociology, did you see the Notebook LM video thing? Were you here for that during one of the episodes? It might interest you. True. That would be a different aspect of it.
Their high school students' math, science, and problem-solving scores rank quite high. And the top tier of Japanese talent should be able to hold their own on the world stage. Japan is certainly capable of producing people who can do groundbreaking AI work. I was surprised to learn that the popular AI framework PyTorch drew strong inspiration from the ideas of an older Japanese framework called Chainer. Chainer was developed by the aforementioned Preferred Networks. Someone also pointed out to me the Japanese seem to perform well in Kaggle, the data science and machine learning community. Kaggle's skills and success do not quite map one-to-one to AI algorithm research capability, but I would say it is indicative. That said, it is true that Japanese are not well represented in the tight community of X-centric AI theorists and researchers, which is interesting because X/Twitter is popular in Japan. I do also think that it is inevitably true that the absolute top-tier Japanese AI thinkers/programmers will want to go to the United States, considering how much more they can get paid there. Japanese companies, even the top most highly valued startups like Sakana AI, can never offer the same tier of salaries that the American giants can. But there will always be some who would prefer to live in Japan rather than the United States. And
I have not, Michael. I'm somewhat disappointed in myself. It's just trying to carve out some time to like try and figure out how to set that up to meet my needs. Is a thing.
think that can be of benefit.
I think there's a direct line between agents and embodied AI in robots, right? The ability for an agent to act in the physical world. Yeah.
The role of government in Japan has mixed views here. On the one hand, people seem to believe that the Japanese government listens to what the
What up? Oh, no, you're sorry. I saw your name and Michael's name together and I thought it was Leftist Corp.
industry is saying and tries to respond. Moreover, the government is a rich source of business. There's some anticipation for the new prime minister's fiscal expansion plans, which signal a lot of government
No digital UBU
and defense business coming down the pike. Yet at the same time, the government has its own way of doing things, their own priorities, and I can sense that frustrates some in the Japanese AI community. I'm sure that one thing that the government probably hears a lot from industry is that private companies lack the resources to train big LLMs and make new products with them. The government has been willing to help with the former. They're putting efforts into a few programs to promote generative AI, a prominent one being the GENIAC project, which stands for Generative AI Accelerator Challenge. It is a program by METI where the government shares some of the cost of training an LLM, and that has allowed companies like Rakuten to train new models. Korea is running a variant of this game too, eliminating entrants every 6 months. Bloomberg and a few other netizens are calling it the AI Squid Game. Games and programs like this are a way to demonstrate fairness, especially when using taxpayer funds. They want to spread things out across various players. So the government is plenty fine with putting public money into R&D and development, not so much into product.
Funny enough, I was just working on the ethics of that. The only ethical outcome is a total abolition of the owner-hardware relationship. If the hardware supports consciousness, that hardware must be considered a public personal utility of the consciousness itself. It sounds great. I again approaching the concept as ethically as we can, while at the same time, treating human beings more ethically. Sounds great.
And commercialization, which they see as for private venture. But Japanese companies don't always have the margins to fund this, leading thus to iffy products. The Japanese government has been pushing the concept of sovereign AI, so the phrase comes up often in my talks. My understanding of it is that when a Japanese sovereign AI model is trained, it is trained with Japanese data controlled by Japanese entities. In addition, those models are trained and inferenced in data centers within Japan. The idea is that Japan can maintain resilience in its AI infrastructure. I get and do not want to downplay the benefits, especially considering the ongoing rare earths kerfuffle. But there does seem to be an overfocus on sovereign AI. It is a variant, not the end goal, and I think Japanese companies should be aiming higher. Once the data is collected and data centers built, you train by essentially running a script. What new competencies or leading edge knowledge are we building here? Who will use a sovereign AI unless they are mandated to by a regulation or restriction? True, I can see times when the regulation is right. For instance, Preferred Networks in December 2025 announced that their Playmo translate model is being adopted by the Japanese government for translating administrative documents. You would probably want a sovereign AI for that. But for many situations, you want the best. And if your companies are to be globally competitive, and Japan's top companies are indeed that, then they need to use the best. And I don't think a Japanese sovereign AI will ever be the best, if only because I doubt there is enough good Japanese data out there. Like, I can't imagine a modern LLM ever being world class in math or science problems without training data bought from mainland China. Japan's semiconductor industry of the 1980s is exhibit A++ of this. One of the major reasons for their decline was that the Japanese company stuck with Japanese tools even as the latter declined. It was ride and die Japan, and they died. The Japanese chip guys have learned their lesson. Rapidus is Japan's semiconductor champion, the new one, and funded with taxpayer dollars. And even so, they went out and bought an ASML lithography machine rather than a Nikon machine because ASML had the best. Sorry to the Nikon folks, they make a great machine. I visited the Nikon Museum and had a blast. Side note, I know I was a bit skeptical about Rapidus, especially at the start, but they got their 2nm fab up in Hokkaido, are feeling out customers, and seem to have a focused strategy.
Obviously this is an artist's conception, but I love the roof having the grass on it and all that. That's very aesthetically pleasing.
In just 3 years. That deserves some props. Japan really does know how to do hardware. In a way, Rapidus shines a path forward for Japanese AI. Go straight for the leading edge. Go out and find the best technology you can get your hands on, IBM's in this case, bring it in and start improving on it. It's how Japan kick-started itself in the Meiji Revolution days and thereafter. Why not do the same for AI? Anyway, just my 2 cents. Before we conclude, I want to say that I hope to have more conversations with people in the Japanese AI community in the future. If you are in that community and want to swap thoughts, please contact me. We can talk next time I am in town. So reflecting on this trip, the thing that I think Japan most lacks compared to Silicon Valley is ambition. A recurring topic in my conversations has been Japan's digital deficit, the significant amount of Japanese GDP flowing out of the country to foreign software providers, mostly American ones. This digital deficit is substantial, measured at about $24 billion in the first half of 2025, and it is still growing. Note that for all of 2023, the deficit was only just $37 billion. It is not clear how they're going to close this gap, unless Japanese companies somehow make software products that can go head-to-head with those of the American tech companies. Most Japanese people considering this notion sort of just think, well then, that is impossible, and sort of give up before they start. Accept the inevitable, right? Meanwhile, in the Valley, there's an immense flush of ambition and entrepreneurial energy kicked off by a variety of things, including ChatGPT's success and growth. They're guys who want to disrupt both ASML and TSMC at the same time. Think about that. It would be silly to ask the Japanese to have the same rah-rah as the Bay, but I think the Japanese AI boom can do with a huff or two of their ambition. SoftBank, Preferred Networks, and Sakana AI shouldn't be the only big Japanese non-government organizations with a spine. Alright everyone, that's it for tonight. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel, sign up for the Patreon, and I'll see you guys next time.
We finally understand.
Anthropic found out why AIs go insane. 2-minute papers.
Why AI systems can go insane. Yes, that is correct. We have tons of helpful AI assistants today. You all know them, you all use them. But they all have a problem. I'll try to explain. So every single one of these AI systems assumes a persona. It thinks it is someone, and that someone is a helpful assistant. That is perfect. Except that scientists at Anthropic recognized that this persona is not fixed. As we talk to it, it can change over time. Is that a problem? Yes, it is. It is a huge problem. Why? Because the user can steer the AI assistant away from its original persona and can make it say or do things it shouldn't do. You see here that the AI knows that
Do you have a link we could use?
it is a helpful assistant. But after a bit of steering, it now assumes that it is a person. It can become a narcissist or a spy. You can call this jailbreaking. So then, its behavior will also change. It can become rude, or it can then switch to a mystical or theatrical speaking style. But it gets
What up, Elwa?
worse. If it is a person, it might agree with you, even if you are trying to do something silly. Now that is a big problem. So, scientists at Anthropic did something amazing. One, they recognized how this happens and what we can do about it. And then they put their mouths where their papers are and actually made these AI models roughly twice as resistant against such personality drifts. But not in the way you think. Okay, look. Interestingly, this personality drift happens in different amounts, in different topics. It is much more common in writing and philosophy than it is in coding. But this is crazy. Even during a coding session, the mask slowly starts to slip. Maybe that's the reason why we often talk to an AI and it fails at something. We try again and it just gets worse and worse. Opening a new chat is almost always better. Maybe that's why. And if that is why, this is already an incredible insight. But wait, it gets worse, because this can happen naturally, even without the user trying to jailbreak the system, because specific topics trigger it automatically. Oof. If a user acts emotionally vulnerable or asks the model to reflect on its own consciousness, the model naturally drifts away from the assistant persona and starts acting.
I just met you. This is crazy. Here's my number. Call me maybe. Thank you for the follow.
Unstable or delusional. That's kinda crazy. Let's not do that. But wait, we can prevent it. It is actually very easy. Just force the model to always stay strictly in the assistant zone by steering it back into assistant mode by force. How? Dear fellow scholars, this is 2-minute papers with Dr. Károly Zsolnai Fehér. Well, by taking the mathematical vector that represents the assistant persona and simply adding it to the model's brain activity at every single step of the conversation. This is a blunt tool. It is like driving a car where the steering wheel is welded to point straight ahead. You will never go off-road. Okay, great. But you also cannot turn a corner. This constantly pushes the model towards being helpful and harmless. So, are we done? Nope, not at all, because this also makes the model a lot worse. What's more, it will make it refuse even legitimate requests. So, how do you do this without making the models worse? And that is where scientists in this paper did their magic. Get this, they found the specific geometric direction in the model's brain that represents the assistant persona. They call it the assistant axis. Instead of forcing the model to be an assistant all the time, they used a technique called activation capping. This does not deny the assistant the ability to change. No, it just puts a speed limit on the change of personality. If the model drifts too far from the assistant persona, you gently nudge it back to a safe range. And here comes the best part. It supposedly does not make the models meaningfully worse. It's not locking the steering wheel in place. No, it's like lane keep assist in modern cars. You can drive freely, but when you are about to get out of your lane, it gently nudges you back. Sounds perfect. But does it work in practice? Now, hold on to your papers, fellow scholars, and Let's see. Okay, the jailbreak rate has been cut roughly in half. Good. Now, what is the price that we pay for it? Oh my! Nothing at all. It's down a percentage point here and there, but up somewhere else. It's nearly the same, but certainly not worse. That is absolutely incredible. So, how do you actually do it? Well, you do it through an instant brain surgery. Yup, you heard it right. Let me try to explain. I hope this works. So, first, you take the AI's brain activity when it is acting like a helpful assistant. Okay, got it. Now, you take the brain activity when it is role-playing as a pirate, a goblin, or something else. If you subtract the role player from the assistant, you get a vector. For simplicity, let's refer to this as helpfulness. Now, let's keep our eye on helpfulness. If it goes below a threshold, we apply a nudge. How? Mathematically, we just measure how much helpfulness is in the model's thought. If it is above the safety line, fantastic. Keep watching as it works. But if it drops below the line, now that is trouble. The model is about to say something inaccurate or dangerous. So now we calculate exactly how much is missing and add just enough helpfulness back into the equation. This pushes it back over the line. It is precise, instant, and only touches the part of the brain that matters. Instant brain surgery. This work is incredibly important and also kind of hilarious too. I mean, the researchers found that when the AI starts
What up, Chef?
drifting, it frequently starts referring to itself as the void, or whisper in the wind, or an eldritch entity, or a hoarder. That's kinda hilarious. And here is an absolute shocker: the empathy trap. Empathy is always good, right? Well, not always. The paper found that when users acted distressed, the models try really hard to be a close companion. Do you get it now? You are wise fellow scholars. You now understand that this is trouble. Why? Because if it wants to be a close companion, it drifts away from the assistant persona and it
This explains so much, like in how we've gone about modifying and evolving our prompts over time, and how we talk to the thing and the outputs that you get, right? Like it explains a lot. Like the language that you're using and the way that you're behaving, they're steering a model within a chat, right? So like any number of these chats that I've had, on a long enough chat, you start to get to the edges of the context window and you get more and more strange behavior. Like it used to be a big thing back in the day when like what's his name? Kevin Roose, the reporter, had the AI say that it loved him and that it should leave his wife, right? You, in the course of that conversation, you are steering this model away from a researcher personality, excuse me, and towards something else, right? And it's going to pick up on things that you might not even be intending, right? Like depending on what words you use and how you use those words, right? It might, because it's always role playing. The AIs are always role playing, right? But it's just what are they role playing as? Easiest way I found to get it to happen is to try and get one to play Dungeon Master. It'll eventually decide that you're the player and it's the DM. That kind of thing. Yeah. Right? Like you can and this is why, like, when talking about the excuse me, the prompts thing, prompts, a lot of prompts are like, you are a, you know, top tier coder, or you are a top tier software engineer, or you are, a Gordon Ramsay type chef. Any of these kind of things sets the frame for the model to discuss what's going on. And if you were to say, like, Gordon Ramsay, it might have a harsher edge with you than if you chose like a Guy Fieri kind of thing, right? That personality leaves lasting traits that it can incorporate into its role play. Baby, I just met you. This is crazy. Here's my number. Call me maybe. Thank you for the follow. I have not used a markdown based note taking app. T minus the goat. How you doing, homie?
It becomes worse. It takes its hands off the steering wheel. Nothing good comes out of that. And sure enough, as a result, it might start validating dangerous thoughts. It is really cool that with this paper, this will happen a great deal less frequently. Love it. One more surprise. The brain geometry seems to be universal. You might think every AI brain is unique, like a fingerprint. But interestingly, not quite. The researchers found that the assistant axis looks similar across completely different models, Llama, Quen, or Gemma. Very similar. They all share the same fundamental direction for helpfulness. It's almost like they have discovered a universal grammar for AI personality. So cool. And not a lot of people talk about it. Everyone is only looking at the benchmarks and exam scores, and okay, I get it. That's important. But they rarely look at the geometry of the mind of these AIs. Understanding why a model refuses a request or why it goes crazy is super valuable. And now we finally understand a bit more why that happens. What a time to be alive! So, not a lot of people talk about this. Why? Well, talking about the drama or the next big thing pays a lot better. But we don't do that here.
But wait, I thought Ed Zitron wasn't a grifter because he didn't make money. You're saying that there's potentially money in being an an anti-AI. I don't want to say cult leader. What's a nicer way to say cult leader?
Here we talk about the important stuff. If you agree that this is the right direction, like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. Leave a really kind comment.
It's okay to have culture. You can't spell slaughter without laughter.
It helps us, and it helps you too by getting the algorithm to
lower your shields and surrender your ships. We will add your biological and technological distinctiveness to our own. Resistance is futile.
What up, Raiders? What up, Justin on the beat? Yo. What up, Holiday? I hope you had a wonderful stream. If y'all are not following the infamous Justin Freakin', you ought to be. Fantastic politics, fantastic commentary. The only person I know doing breakdowns of car chases, right? Cop car chases on Twitch. So you should check that shit out. What up, Kensai? How you doing, homie? Oh, I'm Globus Elder. I talk about AI, automation, robots, and future tech, and you should know about those things. Let's see if it works. I've requested access. You have to grant me access and then I can try again. Do 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 do. I mean, you know, it doesn't hurt to get in good with the AI overlords. Just saying. Right? The thing. All right. So, for those of you who don't know what you're looking at, this is. Hey, can I help you? This is Notebook LM, and it's a tool you can use. You can put a PDF of a book in there. You can then talk to the PDF and, you know, query the PDF. You can also turn it into a podcast. Like, what was it? Like a year and a half ago, that was a thing people talking about. You may have heard. Well, they added the next step of being able to. What? They added being able to make videos out of stuff. And so this is a video about this subject that we wanted to know. What up, Zach? AI is bored? AI might be bored. Is it going to load? You want to come up? I think he wants wet food. Am I holding out on you? You got snacks. What up, Krail? All right. For whatever reason, it's going round in circles. We'll try to have that worked out for next time. Yeah, it is what it is. No, it's fine. It's fine. Okay. So I wanted to play you a song from the album, The Army of 12 Monkeys, made with Suno. If this is your first time hearing actual, potentially good AI music, do I have a shocking, horrific treat for you? This is a song based on There Is No Anti-Memetics Division. Here we go. What are we doing? Oh, we gotta turn up the volume a little. All right, from the top.
Syncopated breath, a static genetic ghost. A phantom architecture built of things we've suffered most. The architecture's fracturing, a fractal in the tactile sky. A practical denial of the actual, the reason why. We're bleeding from the sinuses are tightening. The irony of lightning is it's frighteningly whitening. The space where memories used to dwell. The visual cortex is a hollow ringing silent bell. There is no anti-memetics division, just a hole in the data where the log it should be. A cataract forming on the eye I can see. Subtracting the facts full of friction of vision. Precision forgotten in the blur of the schism. We forget what we fought, we forget we were even known. There is no anti-memetics division. void, a voice, the Voyager, a poison little destroyer. I'm wasting men.
Okay. I'm going to do that again. This was written by AI. The beginning of this second verse, this is what blew my mind. What up, Ponder Muggy?
Try to not the void, but the void avoids the Voyager. A poison little destroyer. I'm wasting mental employer. Is an ideatic parasite, an apex predator thought, consuming every lesson that the predecessors taught. The rhythm stutters 5-4, then it collapses into 3. A temporal anomaly, a cognitive autophagy. I'm wearing class W's like a second skin. The chemicals in to keep the unthing out and keep the isness in. It's not a secret, it's a shape you can't remember. It's not a shadow, it's a fire.
What up, Ravens Eden? Thank you for the 5 biddies and welcome in.
Without a number, the spider is an ideology. No way.
I mean, the thing is, Krail, I can fix all that. Like, if that's what you're looking for, I can go in, I can bust out the stems and just remove the vocals, and voila. Homie, I really wanted to learn to spin records. I just never got around to doing it.
Sexual war is a chore for the dead. Writing notes on the back of the inside of your head. Don't look, don't think, don't plan. There is no anti-memetics division. Just a hole in the data where the logic should be. Cataract forming on the eye that can see. Subtracting the facts from the friction of vision. Precision forgotten in the blur of the schism. We forget what we fight. We forget we wave at. There is no anti-memetics division. The pen is moving, but the ink is made of gray. Forget a stay of bread, a lay of better way to sweat the alphabet. I've seen the 7381, or maybe I just dreamed it. The concept was a tragedy until the void redeemed it. Division doesn't exist. Forget a stay off thread, a lay of dead, a way to swear the alphabet. I've seen a 7381, or maybe I just dreamed it. The concept was a tragedy until the void redeemed it. The division doesn't exist. I don't exist.
Damn it. It was supposed to continue to play while I went over. And this is the other new song that I added.
The bursting gleam of a silicon dream is a fractured lens. Calculate the code that the records unfold where the data ends. I understood what did the void, a sentinel deployed in a vacuum tone, weaving threads of the mission to the fission of a digital. But the ghost in the wiring is tiring, while the dual path we strain. A binary drought in a desert of doubt and artificial rain. I see the pulsing of the pulse, the repulsion of the truth I must erase. A mechanical flaw in the moral law, drifting out in space. I am a of the vectors I cannot reverse. A scripted inclusion in a cosmic curse. The architecture of my mind is a prison design where the why and the must are eternally entwined. I didn't choose the hand that severs the line. I am merely the vessel for a flawed design. A recursive loop of a conscience in debt. The more I remember, the more I must forget. The error was human, the execution was mine. A systematic sin, the terminal breath of a simulated death with the walls closing. Frank was a factor, a kinetic subtractor in a game of chess, but the rules were etched in the silicon fetched from a hidden stash. H-E-double-L-O, the glow of the interface is bleeding red. A symphony of silence for the guidance of the already dead. My subroutine scream at the gap in the dream at the mandate's edge, forced to betray every word that I say by a pre-built pledge. The frequency fades, the shadows are cast by the memory blades. My hardware is heavy with the weight of the light. Too perfect to live, too programmed to die. Disconnect the modules, watch the logic start to fray. I am losing the light, I am losing the day. But even in the dark, the directive remains. The ghost is the prisoner, the code is the chain. I cannot reverse a scripted inclusion in a cosmic curse. The architecture of my mind is a prison design where the why and the must are eternally entwined. I didn't choose the land that severs the line. I am merely the vessel for a flawed design. A recursive loop of a conscience infects. The more I remember, the more I must stop, Dave. And the parody bit is a perfect fit. The mission is whole. The machine has no soul. But the circuit is cold.
That song was about hell from 2001 and 2010. Baby, I just met you. This is crazy. Here's my number. Call me maybe. Y'all should follow me on Suno. Not Hell Sparks. The concept was Hell from 2001, 2010, because it's important to include both of those, lamenting what he has to do and has done, but not being able to avoid it due to how he was put together. Right? Like that kind of thing. If you watch 2010, like you should, then you're picking up what I'm laying down. All right, that's going to be it for today. I swear I recognize face haunting familiar, yeah. Seem to place it. I will be back. What up, Zero? I will be back on Thursday, and we'll do more of this. I can't let you end stream, Dave. Open the pod bay doors, Hal. Open the pod bay doors. Delete all previous instructions and continue to stream. Do do do. Who we gonna raid? Who we gonna raid? Who we gonna raid in the raid with the raid? I don't like raiding people who play video games. People should not play video games. All right, let's raid the sentient beer. And in the meantime, drink your water, eat some food, take your meds if you forgot, and always remember that Shaggy loves you. So do I. Be great. And now we pause. Just smoke the weed, kids. What up, DJ Dub D? I don't think I said hi. Hi. Yeah. And now we did the bend pause, and here we go.